different kinds of building materials, well, actually many building materials, but let's look first of all at the high wall with its gates. I'll pick it up in verse 10. The passage is so beautiful that we should not break it up. And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her brilliance was like a very costly stone, as a stone of crystal clear jasper. And it had a high and great wall with 12 gates, and at the gates were 12 angels, and the names were written on them, that is on the gates, which are those of the 12 sons of Israel. 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, 3 gates on the west. And it says also in verse 21, the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was a single pearl. And the street of the city was pure gold, like transparent glass. Did you hear the story of the man who wanted to take some gold to heaven? It's an apocryphal story. And he arrived there with a pail of gold, and St. Peter said to him, "Why in the world did you bring pavement with you to heaven?" In other words, in heaven, you're going to be walking on that stuff. Why bring pavement to heaven? Transparent, pure gold like glass. But here are the gates. You say, well, why does the city need gates? Well, first of all, so that the redeemed can go in and out. It says in verse 24, the nation shall walk by its light, and the kings of the earth shall bring their glory into it, and in the daytime, and I love this parenthesis, for there shall be no night there. In other words, it'll be eternal day. Its gates shall never be closed. You don't need a pass to get out. You won't have to punch a card to come in. If you're redeemed, you can go in and out freely. I think you'll want to spend most of your time inside, but you may be given an assignment that takes you outside, and there'll be no hassle getting back in, even if you show up late. Now, another thing that the gates do is they keep the wrong people out. Now, notice I'm not making this up. Some of you don't bring your Bibles to church, and you should, because you should always check up on me whether or not this stuff is stuff that I dream about. Notice it says in verse 26, and they shall bring the glory and the honor of the nations into it, and nothing unclean, and no one who practices abomination and lying shall ever come into it, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. Notice it says, verse 15 of chapter 22, outside are the dogs, that is the male prostitutes as it is defined in the Old Testament, the sorcerers, the immoral persons, the murderers, the idolaters, and everyone who loves and practices lying. Ouch. Have you ever looked at the book The Day America Told the Truth? Isn't it true that about 90% of the people say that they lie quite regularly? Now the question is, could you believe the opinion poll? That's the problem I have. But nevertheless, it says, God says all those who love and practice lying, they're outside. And the gates of the city are there to keep them out. Not that they'll be banging on the doors. This is symbolism. There'll be someplace else that I'll be talking about in the next message. But I want you to see here that this is a city where the redeemed can walk in and out and have freedom, because this is their city now that they have inherited all things. And in case you think that I was making that up, notice what it says in chapter 21, where it speaks about the fact in verse 7, he who overcomes shall inherit these things, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. Imagine it. What a place to be. What a place to be. Well, this is Pastor Lutzer, and I might emphasize, yes, what a place to be. You know, it's interesting, as I read those passages in the book of Revelation more carefully, I notice that there is only one street in the New Jerusalem. Usually we talk about streets that are paved with gold, but it says that the street was like gold, like transparent glass. Because I think that the New Jerusalem is like a city, and it has perhaps one main street. It has the boulevard. It has the great street that goes right down the middle of the city. And if you take that street, living at the end of it is God. Now, I know, of course, that God exists everywhere, but there's a sense in which the glory of God is going to be localized in the New Jerusalem. And we'll be able to go in and out. We'll be able to visit with one another. We will not spend all of our time on our faces before the Almighty. We will do that, but I also have no doubt that God will have activities planned for us so that we will be very busy and we will be productive in that sense. And just to think it's going to last for all of eternity. Well, my friend, take these thoughts with you for today, and let us all live in light of them, because I assure you, eternity is coming.
Thank you, Dr. Lutzer. You've heard Dr. Erwin Lutzer with Part 1 of Living in the New Jerusalem, the 5th message in his series, 1 Minute After You Die. This series can be yours on CD, cassette, or MP3, or as a full-length book. For complete information, call 1-800-215-5001. That's 1-800-215-5001. For a great adventure, join Dr. Lutzer in the steps of Luther and the Reformers this June in Europe. For information, go to our website or call 1-888-771-8717. That's 1-888-771-8717. Running to Win comes to you from Chicago's Moody Church. Our website is runningtowin.org. Don't forget, this broadcast is supported by listeners like you. This is Dave McAllister. Join us for tomorrow's Running to Win.